Welcome back, folks. Philly's #1 college radio station, WHIP. Great spot right there with Matt Rule, who was kind enough to join us in studio today. Now let's switch gears a little bit and do some Temple basketball, as we are now joined by the best college basketball writer in the country from the New York Daily News, and that is Dick Hoops Weiss. Dick, it's Zach Gelb and Haley Conzen. How are you?
I'm doing great, guys. How are you?
Well, we're doing great ourselves, and some sad news out of New York as Jack Curran passed away over the weekend. Can you just tell us a little bit more about Jack Curran and the man that he was?
Well, I knew Jack for a long time. He was 82 years old. He coached basketball since 1958 in New York Catholic League. He probably epitomized more than anyone else, including Bob Hurley and Morgan Wooten, what a high school coach should be. He coached a number of professional players like Kenny Anderson, Kenny Smith at Malloy, won a number of championships. Wadey Ridgeby, who does the radio at Villanova, played on one of the championship teams in the mid-'70s. One of the great teachers I've ever been around. If the Hall of Fame was meant to be for people who have actually taught the game the right way and inspired young people to go on and be solid citizens, he probably merited the same type of induction that Coach Hurley and Coach Wooden received previously. It's hard. The Hall of Fame is so NBA-centric right now, but this guy kind of transcended that, and I thought that it was really nice at the Big East final Saturday night that they actually paid homage to him at halftime with a photo. I mean, he never got married. He was offered the Boston College job after Chuck Daly left, and opted to stay in New York because he needed to take care of his mother. Lived at an apartment in Rye, New York, in Westchester County. He went to Mass every day and then would drive to Archbishop Malloy, coached baseball and basketball for many years. Actually used to pitch batting practice as late as the age of 75. Was actually the guy who coached Tim Larinaga, who coached George Mason to the Final Four in 2006, and is now at Miami. And I still remember that special season when Mason went to the Final Four, and Jim had finally convinced Jack to come down to the Final Four with him. He had him ride the team bus, have him sit on the team meetings, and he made it really special for him. And it was a nice reward for a job that has been well done for a long, long time.
And now Larinaga has that Miami team. He joined us a few days ago to talk with us, and that team's going to be a tough out in the tournament. I think they have a nice way to get to the Final Four. But looking back at Jack Curran, and I was a man that grew up with New York high school hoops, and now I'm in Philadelphia working for WHIP, going to Temple University, and I'm covering Rasheed Jordan, trying to find out where he's going as it's down to 3 schools in St. John's, UCLA, and Temple. He'll make his decision probably sometime next month. But give me the similarities and differences of New York City high school hoops and Philadelphia high school hoops.
Well, I mean, the success ratio of kids in New York is much higher than Philadelphia, but each city is equally competitive because each city has a long tradition. I would think in New York it's a lot more about breaking a man down, taking him to the basket. There's a lot more rucker leagues. There's a lot more attention to doing tricks with the basketball and performing at a more flamboyant level. Philadelphia players, the good ones, would cut your heart out because they play to win and they play hard all the time. I mean, the kid Rasheed Jordan is a classic example of a Philadelphia point guard. He's a fabulous talent, and I honestly believe Temple has got a legitimate shot to get him right now. I mean, they're Under Armour school. He took instruction from a guy who now works for Under Armour, and if he wants to stay local and make a huge name for himself, Temple would be a great option.
And also, you talked about that he's a big-time family man as well, and living right on Cecil B. Moore, that's so close to the Accor Center, so his family would definitely be able to come out and go to some games. Dick Hoops Weiss joins us on the hotline, Philly's #1 college radio station, WHIP. Hoops, let's get to the Temple basketball team. They lose to UMass in the first round of the A-10. They get upset for the second year in a row to UMass, and now it's going to be NC State coming up in Ohio this weekend on Friday at 1:40. Anthony Lee, he had some concussion problems in that UMass game. He's expected to play come Friday. How important is he to get a healthy Anthony Lee on the court going up against these NC State big men?
I think it's very important because, when C.J. Leslie wants to be, he's probably one of the 10 best big kids in the country. I mean, Hal is a beast. You have potential matchup problems up front, and you have an NC State with an experienced backcourt, but you also have a team that I think is somewhat underachieved this year and hasn't always played to its potential. I think that you have to make sure that you guard almost every position, particularly the guard spots with Wood and Brown. They're both very, very good. And, Mark Godfrey has got some good young players like T.J. Warren. He can fit that fit right in to the mix. Purvis Short fits right in. Rodney Purvis, fits right into the mix, although he's not a great shooter. Temple has got to, they've got to make sure that they get scoring from more than one player. Khalif Wyatt may well be the best guard State has faced all season, but Temple is going to need to get scoring out of Johnny Randall, whose game comes and goes very good. And when Hollis Jefferson's game is very good the way it was against LaSalle, and when Randall plays well the way he did against LaSalle and VCU, Temple is a hard out. This has been strange. It's obvious Franny knows how to coach a team very well during the regular season. He just, for one reason or another, hasn't been able to get to that second weekend. And this will not be an easy game, but it's a game that Temple should be more than competitive in. I have no fear. I think that the Atlantic 10 is a very, very undervalued league. I think it's a league that had they got 5 bids and probably had 10 good teams this year. UMass could have very easily played in the NCAA Tournament. Were in the bubble until the last couple of games. St. Joe's, which was actually picked to win the league, which didn't even finish in the top 5, and they have a good team. There are a lot of teams that are very difficult to play, particularly on the road. Teams like Charlotte. Temple has gotten a lot of experience playing against a lot of different styles, a lot of very good, resourceful coaches, and playing against a lot of very competitive teams. I love the Big East. It was a special time last week, but I was able to sneak over and watch the semifinals and finals of the Atlantic 10 tournament. It was very good basketball, and the games, frankly, were more competitive in the early rounds than what you saw over at the Garden, because there was so much at stake, and teams knew that there wasn't much separating, 1 through 10.
Dick Hoops Weiss joins us on the hotline. Hoops, a few more questions right before we let you run. I know you're very pressed for time today. Khalif Wyatt, you see him. He was the A-10 player of the year. Then he came out and played his worst game of the season up against UMass. Do you expect him to bounce back up against NC State?
I do. And I think he tends to play well in big games. I was in the Garden the day that he played against Syracuse, so he's capable of a big game against good teams. He just needs to make sure he has help. I look at his body of work. There's a reason why he was the MVP in that league this year. He basically carried that team, particularly at the start of the year when they were looking for second and third pieces. And I expect him to have a good game. I don't know if they'll match him up against Lorenzo Brown or not, but my guess is that he will be a hard guy for them to guard during the course of the game.
And if they want to win this game, they have to distribute the basketball. It can't just be Khalif Wyatt. And Scooty Randall has to be one of those players to step up. He's been up and down this year. What do you see from Scooty coming up on Friday?
I wish I could tell you if I could predict that. And if I could tell you that there was going to be a level of consistency, I would say would have a very good shot. Don't know how this kid is going to play. And I don't know if he's put too much pressure on himself this year or not. But the two games I watched at the end of the year, the LaSalle game and the VCU game, I thought he played well. I mean, and when he plays like that and he contributes like that, and when Hollis Jefferson has the type of game he had against LaSalle, they're suddenly a very hard team to guard because you've got to guard three potential scorers. But Randall has got to be the second option on Friday. He just does. Now, my guess is the State is going to play straight man, so that should really help Temple.
Staying in the Big Five, you have Villanova playing UNC and LaSalle going up against Boise State. Break down those two matchups for me.
I'm actually going to Dayton on my way to Auburn Hills, so I'll actually see that first four game tomorrow night. It's definitely a flea circus because one team, LaSalle, plays 4 guards and the other team plays 5 guards. So it'll be a wild 6 foot and under type of game where the teams shoot. Well, I think LaSalle has got to keep Dorn on the floor at all times. I would like them better if I knew whether Steve and Zach was physically healthy because they can't play without a big kid. They just need to have a big kid who will be effective, even as a guy they can just put on the floor and get solid performances out of him. They didn't realize how much they missed him, I think, until the end of the season. As for Villanova, they're young, frankly. It's hard to tell what to expect from them. They've had some real clunkers, but they're also the only team to beat the top 3 teams in the Big East this year. They beat Louisville, they beat Georgetown, and in my mind, Syracuse was their best team. They also beat them, and they beat Marquette too. And all 4 of those teams are top 4 seeds.
Final one here right before we let you go is Dick Hoops Weiss joins us. We can't have you on without asking you this because you are the best college basketball writer in the country. Give me your Final 4, who gets to the championship game and who wins it.
I like Louisville in the 3-2 seeds, and I like Louisville to win it. I don't think Gonzaga will get to the Final 4. I like Ohio State out west. I like Georgetown because I think they're more consistent, and I don't know that this is a vintage Kansas team in the South. And I think Miami, playing in D.C., same building where Jim Larranaga coached Masons in the championship, has a shot to beat Indiana. I never know how Indiana is going to play, and they didn't exactly finish off the season. I thought they were the best team in the country for a long period of time because I thought that they had the best combination of players, particularly Oladipo and Zeller, but they lost at home on senior night to Ohio State and then lost again for a 12th straight time to Wisconsin out in the semifinals of the Big Ten tournament. So I don't know what you're going to get from them. I mean, obviously they're a team that's good enough to get there, but this may be Miami may be a team of destiny. They have the best guard in the ACC. They have the oldest team, 225-year-old kids, and they have big physical size up front when they play Johnson and Kaji and Gamble, and they've got ACC skill at the wing, particularly defensively with McKinney and Scott.
Hoops, you are the best. Thanks so much for joining us today. I really appreciate it, my friend.
No problem, Zach. Best of luck to you, okay?
Thank you. Dick Hoops Weiss right there, Philly's #1 college radio station, WHIP. What we'll do now is we'll take a break.